most Americans received their stimulus checks, some of you may not have seen your full amount. We'll tell you why. Plus, could the stay-at-home order in Washington be extended? Governor Jay Inslee explaining where we are in hopes of opening up our state.
After a cooler day today, temperatures back on the upswing for the rest of this week. I'll fill you in on when we're expecting our next 70-degree days.
Good evening and thank you for joining KREM 2 News at 11 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Hard to believe we are more than halfway through week 4 of social distancing here at KREM 2, so I continue to broadcast from my home here on the South Hill. Meantime, our Regina On back at the studio tonight. Regina?
Hey there, Mark. Good to see you. Yeah, only 2 days away from the weekend, but who's counting? Let's get to our top story for tonight. Millions of Americans have started getting their $1,200 stimulus checks this week, but some of them may not end up with the full amount of cash. That's because the checks are susceptible to certain debts, but not others. Our political reporter, Casey Decker, looked into what those could be.
Let's start off with the kinds of debts that cannot affect your stimulus check. First off, any kind of debt you owe the federal government. That means back taxes and defaulted student loans will not be taken out of this payment. Now, if you filed your 2019 tax return already and you owe some money, the IRS can still take that money from your account. But your full stimulus check will still come. It's a completely separate transaction. You are also allowed now to wait until July 15th to file that return. Now, there are some debts that can be taken from your check. The biggest one is overdue child support. The stimulus law specifically says child support money can be garnished from your payment. Another one, money that you owe your bank, specifically any fees or delinquent loans. While this isn't explicitly in the law, news outlet The American Prospect got a hold of a recording of a meeting between the Treasury and major banks. That recording revealed the Treasury is allowing banks to take stimulus money that goes into accounts they hold to pay debts they are owed. Finally, private debts. This one actually varies by state right now. In Washington, Governor Jay Inslee just issued a proclamation temporarily banning most garnishment. That applies to wages as well as your stimulus check for at least the next month. In Idaho, it appears that normal garnishment laws are still in effect, meaning if you have an order against you, your creditors could try to take some of your stimulus money. Now, experts say the best way to prevent that is to withdraw the money before the creditors can get to it. Or if you have a paper check, cash it rather than deposit it. This is also something that dozens of attorneys general across the country are asking the federal government to act on. They want the Treasury to use its powers under the stimulus law to declare this money off limits to private creditors. So far, they haven't done so. Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
All right, thanks, Casey. The stimulus program created to help small businesses is nearly out of money. Nearly 90% of the $349 billion set aside for the Paycheck Protection Program has been doled out as of this afternoon. One financial lawyer says that large businesses are being prioritized over smaller ones.
Frankly, until all the established bank customers get their loans, they might not even be on the line.
Now, when the Paycheck Protection Program runs out of money, Congress will then have to refill it. And for the time being, small businesses appear to be in a state of limbo. The IRS just launched a new tool today to track your stimulus check. A lot of viewers have reached out to us saying they've gotten an error message. You may have seen this on your screen. It may be frustrating, but the good news is that it doesn't look like you're alone. If the IRS is telling you it can't determine your eligibility, a couple things could be happening. It's possible you filed your taxes for 2019, but it hasn't processed yet, or you're incorrectly inputting your information. It could also be an issue with your address. If you've entered in incorrect information too many times, you will see a message locking you out for 24 hours for security reasons. And if you're locked out for now, it may simply be cleared up when you try again tomorrow. Reports are now showing that Washington's economy lost just over 11,000 jobs in the month of March, and unemployment rates jumped from 3.8% to a little over 5%. The rise in unemployment illustrates that the state's levels are now 7 times higher than they were during the Great Recession. While simple unemployment claims filed online are still being processed and approved, more complicated claims or those with errors that need human intervention are getting stuck in the system. Well, one of our favorite summer events will now be taking place later in the summer. Hoopfest now has a new date of August 22nd and 23rd. Many players are understandably disappointed, but some are simply happy local health leaders are doing what they can to protect our community.
But I'm just grateful that, they're working hard to even make it happen. I think it'd be a huge loss for Spokane if we skipped an entire year.
One health leader says that they're working to protect the community, and it's what Dr. Bob Lutz is cautioning by the uncertainty surrounding large group gatherings.
I think many of us in public health are very concerned about large numbers of people, especially large numbers of people coming from all parts of the country.
Lutz has been encouraged by the progress Spokane has made towards flattening the curve, but he, like many other health leaders, doesn't want to risk reopening the city too early and erase all the progress. And apart from the pure fun that Hoopfest brings, the event is also a main driver in Spokane's economy. Mayor Nadine Woodward and Spokane health leaders say the decision to postpone Hoopfest was wise, with people from all over the country meeting here in Spokane. Public health continues to remain at the forefront, but many local businesses rely on this event to stay afloat financially.
It's our biggest business days is when Hoopfest is played. So they're not only a huge part of the reason that David's is in business, but the whole downtown core and actually all of Spokane relies on Hoopfest.
And local businesses are now crossing their fingers, hoping the event won't later be canceled altogether. And Mark, as we continue to fight this virus, we're seeing crucial medical supplies in short supply throughout the state.
That's right, Regina. The Washington State Hospital Association will start sending out shipments of disposable surgical masks as soon as tomorrow. The shipments will mark the first time the association has taken the steps in importing and distributing medical supplies to ensure health workers and patients are safe during the pandemic. The association has purchased a total of 300,000 surgical masks and is selling the masks to various facilities. The masks will be shared across the state to the hospitals most in need. A week ago, a riot broke out at the Monroe Correctional Complex over on the west side over the prison's handling of the coronavirus. 7 inmates and 5 staffers have tested positive. Tonight, our sister station got the perspective of an inmate on what life's been like behind bars since the outbreak began.
Arthur Longworth is serving a sentence of life without parole for murder. He's been in the Monroe Correctional Complex for 10 years and says he's never seen this level of fear and confusion.
It's been chaos. No one knows what to do.
On April 8th, over 100 inmates rioted over the prison's handling of the coronavirus. Longworth was in a different part of the complex at the time, but says he's heard from other inmates the reason behind it.
When the DOC secretary gets on television and says that we are practicing social distance protocols in prison, and at the same time you're listening to this broadcast in a dorm where people are stacked on top of each other.
Longworth says the biggest problem inside the prison now, it's impossible to social distance.
We share everything. This phone, as soon as I get off this phone, another person will pick it up and use it.
While some media outlets are reporting inmates asking to be put in isolation to avoid exposure to the virus, Longworth says the opposite is happening in Monroe.
Everyone knows if they have symptoms, they're going to get chained and shackled. They're going to get stripped, and they're going to get hauled to a cell with nothing in it. And I think that makes the incarcerated people in prison kind of leery to report symptoms.
The state announced they plan to release nearly 1,000 inmates who have nonviolent convictions, drug or alcohol-related charges, and fewer than 8 months left on their sentence. Longworth fears this won't make a dent on the problem of social distancing.
That's not the prisoners that you see in prison. So those must be prisoners that are in the minimum work camps or work releases.
We reached out to the governor's office and the Department of Corrections to do some fact-checking on the situation. So far, we're still awaiting a response. In Monroe, Kayla Lafferty.
The government is making preparations for when people will be allowed to ease back into society with normal life. The CDC and FEMA are recommending that first there is confidence that infection rates are genuinely low and the healthcare system has the capacity to handle a new surge in cases. And there needs to be a well-functioning system to test and trace patients. It's the state governors who will ultimately decide when they'll reopen their communities.
they're diagnosed and then they're isolated and then their contacts are traced. That's going to be fundamental. This outbreak got beyond containment this time. We need to get it back, so the containment's an important part of our overall strategy.
Yesterday, the president said he is suspending funding to the World Health Organization while reviewing their response to the pandemic. The White House claims the WHO wasn't transparent about the outbreak in China. Meantime, Governor Jay Inslee shared some positive news today. He said the state is starting to flatten the curve, but he also emphasized the importance of continuing social distancing. He also followed up on a previous request he made for the federal resources to mobilize to help with the nationwide PPE shortage.
Yesterday, the Department of Defense indicated they were going to really activate their supply chain to see if some of the people who make defense products can make some of these medical products, including test kits, including viral transfer media, the whole 9 yards. That's a really good thing.
The governor also added that it is, quote, unknowable if the state stay-at-home order will end on May 4th, as specific criteria must be met before that happens, which the state, he says, has yet to meet. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the forecast. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick standing by. And Thomas, I understand the weather from here on out will be better than it has been the past couple of days.
Yeah, I think weather-wise, this has been a bit of a low point for the mid part of the week, but I have to ask you, Mark, has it been indoor or outdoor days for you recently? Have you even had a chance to get outside?
I mean, given our situation, every day is going to be at least somewhat of an outdoor day, or I would just go batty in my house all day.
Yeah, exactly. At least the minimum for me sometimes is at least just opening the blinds, getting some of the sunshine in. Thankfully, we had a chance to do that today, even if our temperatures are still running a little bit cooler than average, but mid-50s isn't too bad for the mid part of April. And those 60s and 70s aren't too far away. Central Washington still enjoying some warm weather. Bit of some cloud cover still out there tonight. We had some spotty showers here or there earlier today. The rain is finished up and the clouds will depart in due time. But you see a little bit of that haze just from the street lights from below on our tower cam right now. So still reporting cloudy conditions. I think by tomorrow morning we will be A-OK with that sunshine. The warming trend lasts not just into the weekend, but clear on through it as well. So 60s and 70s should be commonplace heading into next week. So I'll detail when those 70s are back in the forecast for Spokane and even parts of North Idaho, and what you can still see in the night sky in the coming days. That in just a few moments.
All right, looking forward to better weather. Thank you, Thomas. All right, still ahead tonight, Idaho Governor Brad Little extended the state's stay-at-home order today. We'll take a look at what that means for the state and its businesses coming up after the break.